Let's get started with our first news. Henry Cejudo retiring was one of the worst decisions in MMA history. Daniel Cormier believes that Henry Cejudo's decision to announce his retirement in 2020 ranks among the most regrettable choices in MMA history. For context, Cejudo, who was the reigning flyweight and bantamweight champion, had just defeated Dominic Cruz via TKO in the second round before announcing his retirement. Many speculated that this move was a strategy to gain leverage in contract negotiations with the UFC. However, the organization did not engage, resulting in both of Henry's titles being left vacant. Since his return, he has suffered 3 consecutive losses against Aljamain Sterling, Merab Dvalishvili, and most recently, Song Yadong. Daniel Cormier agrees with the belief that Cejudo's retirement was a money play that ultimately backfired. Looking back, Henry had claimed that he walked away because everything was secure, life was good, and he was happy. He had a beautiful daughter, a wife, and everything he could ask for. But now, years later, he's still wanting to continue. So looking back at that decision, was it one of the worst in the history of mixed martial arts? To retire in the middle of the pandemic when fighters were becoming mega stars because nothing else was on TV. During a time when the world had stopped and the UFC was the only show in town, Cejudo decided he just didn't want to do it anymore. Was that a mistake? Was it a gamble that failed? When Henry walked away, it really felt like a money play. If we're calling a spade, it looked like he was saying, "I'm the champ, I'm the double champ, I just beat Dominic Cruz, pay me more." But the UFC didn't bite, and now Henry is paying the price for that decision. Instead of returning to reclaim his dominance, he's struggling to keep up with the top contenders. He came back expecting to pick up where he left off, but the sport had moved on. Fighters evolved, the division became more stacked, and Henry found himself outmatched. His loss to Aljamain Sterling was his first real test back, and he fell short. Then, against Merab Dvalishvili, he was simply outworked, and most recently, against Song Yadong, he was completely outclassed. These losses have only further proved that stepping away was a terrible choice. If he had stayed active, continued defending his titles, and built upon his legacy, he might still be at the top today. Instead, he's now fighting just to remain relevant. Daniel Cormier knows the sport better than almost anyone, and he believes that Henry made a crucial error. Retiring when he was at the peak of his powers, when he had all the momentum, was a decision that came back to haunt him. Fighters like Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, and even Sean O'Malley took advantage of the spotlight during the pandemic era, becoming massive stars while Henry sat on the sidelines. He missed that wave, and now he's trying to claw his way back into the conversation, but it's not working. The reality is, Henry Cejudo may never be the same again. He may never get another title shot. He may never reclaim what he lost. And worst of all, he has nobody to blame but himself. Moving on to the next news, Merab Dvalishvili hints that he's fighting Sean O'Malley next. After UFC Seattle, Dana White indicated that Merab Dvalishvili would likely defend his bantamweight title in a rematch against Sean O'Malley. And now, Merab himself has posted a new skit suggesting that this fight is indeed his next matchup. The bantamweight division is stacked right now, and with the recent fight announcements, things are heating up fast. While the O'Malley rematch isn't officially confirmed yet, it's clearly the direction the UFC is leaning toward. And let's be honest, this is a fight that brings a lot of attention. Merab has been on an incredible run, and after his dominant performance against O'Malley the first time, there's a lot of debate about whether he can do it again. On the other side, O'Malley is looking for redemption. He wants to prove that the first fight was just a bad night and that he is still one of the best in the world. With so many different options in the division, it's interesting to see how this fight came together. Some fans believed O'Malley could have faced someone like Aldo or even another top contender, but it looks like the UFC wants the rematch, and that makes sense. O'Malley is one of the biggest stars in the UFC right now. His style, his personality, and his fan base make him a massive draw. A fight with Merab, especially after the way the first one ended, has all the makings of a PPV blockbuster. And let's not forget, fans want it, and most importantly, the fighters want it. O'Malley has been pushing for this opportunity, and Merab seems ready to defend his belt against him again. The question is, will this fight play out the same way as before, or will O'Malley make the adjustments he needs to finally solve the puzzle that is Merab Dvalishvili? This fight, if confirmed, is going to be huge. Now, let's move on to the latest fight announcements. Jose Aldo is scheduled to face Aiemann Zahabi at UFC 315 on May 10th. Aldo is coming off a split decision loss to Mario Bautista in October, while Zahabi enters the bout on a 5-fight winning streak. His most recent victory was against Pedro Munhoz via unanimous decision in November. Meanwhile, Muhammad Usman is set to face Hamdi Abdelwahab at UFC Qatar on May 17th. Usman is looking to break his 2-fight losing streak, while Abdelwahab remains undefeated with a perfect 6-0 record. His most recent win came on February 1st, where he secured a split decision victory over Jamal Pogue. Let's move on to another huge story. Paddy Pimblett believes that Ilia Topuria moving up will be the downfall of his career. Paddy does not think Ilia will find much success in the lightweight division. Not only does he believe Ilia won't receive an immediate title shot, but he also thinks this move up could ultimately end his career at the highest level. Speaking to Round 8 Boxing, Paddy made it clear that he wants that fight. That's the fight I want. I want that fight. That's another one just to prove everyone wrong. He's a fraud, lad. He's not a lightweight. He shouldn't be fighting at lightweight. He should have stayed at featherweight. This is going to be the downfall of his career. Paddy is making it known that he sees serious flaws in Ilia's game, and he doesn't buy into the hype surrounding the featherweight champion. He also shut down the idea that Ilia is as good as he thinks he is, saying he's just trying to be a carbon copy of McGregor. Paddy believes Ilia's dominant performances at featherweight won't translate to the lightweight division, where the competition is even tougher. He argues that lightweight is full of bigger, stronger, and more well-rounded fighters who won't be overwhelmed by Ilia's pressure and striking. Paddy also doesn't think Ilia will get a title shot right away. Instead, he believes Ilia will have to fight someone like Dustin Poirier, Arman Tsarukyan, or Charles Oliveira before even getting close to a title fight. And in Paddy's eyes, those fights won't go well for Ilia. This isn't featherweight, Paddy continued. He's not going to just walk into lightweight and run through people. He's got a rude awakening coming his way, lad. Whether or not Ilia succeeds at lightweight remains to be seen, but Paddy is confident that this move will be a mistake. With tensions between these two already at a boiling point, could we see them face off in the octagon soon? One thing is for sure. Paddy is ready for that fight. Now, in breaking news, Dan Hooker has pulled out of his fight against Justin Gaethje. Hooker broke his hand during sparring, forcing him to withdraw from the highly anticipated UFC 313 matchup. Hooker revealed the bad news last night, saying, "We did have a little break, but I've busted me hand." He went for a CT scan and the doctors confirmed his hand is fractured. With Hooker out, the UFC is now scrambling to find a replacement, and several lightweights have already stepped up. Moicano wasted no time calling for the fight, saying, "2 weeks is good. I have enough time for a couple of sparring sessions. I'm ready." Moicano has always been game for short notice fights, and this could be a massive opportunity for him. Meanwhile, Rafael Fiziev wants a rematch against Gaethje after their first fight in March 2023, where Gaethje won via majority decision. Fiziev immediately posted, "Let's run it back at Justin Gaethje." That first fight was an all-out war, and a rematch would surely bring fireworks. Then there's Mateusz Gamrot, who also threw his name in the mix, saying, "2 weeks? No matter. I'm ready to go." Gamrot has been looking for a big opportunity, and a win over Gaethje would shoot him straight into title contention. And just when things couldn't get crazier, even Islam Makhachev got in on the action, posting a photo of himself standing next to a fire extinguisher with the caption, "Someone needs to be put out." Was this a call out, or was he just adding to the chaos? Either way, the lightweight division is on fire right now. Meanwhile, Justin Gaethje himself reacted to the news, posting on Snapchat, "Hooker is out, waiting for a new opponent. Gaethje wants to fight, and the UFC is working hard to make it happen." And finally, DC reveals his phone conversation with Justin Gaethje. With Gaethje left in limbo as the UFC searches for a replacement, he remains confident that he'll still compete at UFC 313. Daniel Cormier revealed that he called Gaethje at 6 a.m. to get an update, and when he asked Justin if he had any plans not to fight, Gaethje responded, "Are you crazy? Of course, I'm fighting." That's classic Gaethje, always ready for war. One potential replacement fight could be Gaethje versus Renato Moicano. Both men are coming off losses, and Moicano has always been willing to step up on short notice. This would be a high-paced, all-action matchup that fans would absolutely love to see. And in one of the biggest controversies, the MMA community is furious with Dana White's matchmaking. The decision to book Jose Aldo against Aiemann Zahabi has sparked outrage among fans, who believe that Aldo deserves high-profile fights. Aldo is a former UFC featherweight champion, a legend of the sport, and widely considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. His return to the UFC should have been a massive moment, but instead, the promotion has matched him up with a relatively unknown opponent. Fans are not happy. The backlash has been intense. Fans have taken to social media to blast the UFC, calling the decision disrespectful and ridiculous. They believe Aldo should be facing bigger names, such as Dominic Cruz, Petr Yan, or even a rematch with Henry Cejudo. One frustrated fan wrote, "I'm genuinely appalled at the stupidity of this matchmaking. The outrage is growing, and it's clear that the UFC may have made a big mistake." With all this chaos unfolding, the next few days will be crucial. Who will replace Dan Hooker in his fight against Justin Gaethje? And will the UFC listen to fans and book a bigger fight for Aldo? The drama in the MMA world is just getting started. Now, let's talk about two potential super fights. Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. Who wins if this epic fight happens? Will featherweight champion Ilia Topuria prove he can hang with the best? Or will lightweight king Islam Makhachev dominate him with his wrestling? Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus Du Plessis. Who takes this one? Will Chimaev's relentless aggression and wrestling be too much, or will Dricus's power and cardio lead him to victory? Let us know in the comments section. We truly respect your opinion, and don't forget to subscribe for daily MMA news.